Hi, this is Dennis, Second Chance Tackle. I'm going to continue on this older reel series. Matt sent these to me from San Francisco. The first one we did was the Fluger Rocket, and now we're going to do a South Bend. It's a South Bend 915. It's in nice condition all around, beautiful reel. Probably around the World War. Not exactly sure exactly what it is, but we'll go do some looking on this one. It's a Model C 915. We'll take this apart, we'll show you what's made on the inside, and we'll show you how to tune it up and keep it lubed to keep going again. Now if there's any faults with these reels, one of them lies in the line guide where the pawl will break and the assembly will be frozen. In this case this is working well, so that's a good thing. The other one is the drags. If the drag washers are worn, you got to search a long time to find replacement drags. Sometimes you can substitute them, sometimes you get lucky and maybe a drag from a Penn reel or a Mitchell reel or something will fit, but a lot of times it isn't. That click that we hear is the anti-reverse, and what I like to do when I'm removing these is shut the anti-reverse off. It's easier to remove, but it's also better when you go to reinstall. So let's get started by taking the external pieces off. That starts with a nut cap for the handle, and we have the handle. That's a beautiful handle. I'm not sure if that's Bakelite or what this material is, but it's a gorgeous handle. We have a shim washer underneath that, and in a lot of regards this is similar to the one that we were working on before with the Fluger Rocket. Okay, we're going to grab that off. We have a different type of tensioning system here. We're going to pull that out. Notice the orientation on the collar. The small part goes towards the reel. The wider part goes outside. Good time to talk about a couple of good best practices kind of things when you're working on these fishing reels. One of them is to take pictures along the way. I'm doing that with the video. But if you don't have the video or you don't want to video yourself, then by all means use some other techniques. Use your cell phone camera, use a digital camera or what have you. The other one, I like to wear a protective glove on my non-dominant hand, my left hand. I would like to wear that glove on all of my hands, both of the hands, but the problem that I have with that is that I lose control of tools and the like. It's not a good idea. Okay, I haven't had one of these apart and I don't have the schematic. I would recommend that if you could find the schematic, by all means go ahead and do that. That's a blueprint that generally tells you how the reel comes together. In this case I don't have that, so I'm kind of winging it here, but that's okay. You got to take some chances in life, right? Okay, let's see if we can get that off. We can get that off. And so here's the difference on this one. This one has an internal bridge that's held on by 3 screws here. We'll get those off in a moment to go work on that. We have the spool gear attached here. And it looks like it's an integral part of the spool. Hard to tell at the moment. We'll take a better look at that, but I think that might be integral to the spool. We'll clean that up and see. And we can remove the spool here as well. And in the back we just have a simple bushing back here, so we can take care of that right away by just putting a little bit of grease on there. So what looked like from the outside appearances to be an identical reel to the Fluger Rocket is not. But this one is in very nice shape. Nonetheless, I'm going to just try and clean this off a little bit, see what we got here. Yeah, as best I can tell, that gear is it's not a shaft, not one that slides on a shaft. It looks like this one's part of the assembly. There may be a C-clip here, I'm not sure. At any rate, it doesn't appear to be damaged in any way, so I'm going to just leave it as it is. This is a tune-up, it's not a rebuild or anything. We're just going to clean the channels out of that spool gear. And we'll just make sure it's nice and clean. I'm just using a small blade of micro screwdriver to do that. And then we're just going to use some of that grease just to lube that up and set that aside. So with that done, we're just going to reinstall the spool. Matt, this looks like old line. Get rid of it when you get it back. I always recommend that you change the line after one season. So it'd be a good idea to do that. We're going to put some grease onto the drive for the worm gear itself. Let's come over and just take a look at this piece then. There's 3 screws here that hold that bridge on. Just making sure that we got the right ones. There's screws that show up from time to time that if you don't know what the purpose of it is, just turn underneath. For example, we don't need to remove the screw that has the anti-reverse lever working here. So you can leave that one in play. Just take the 3 out that go to the bridge. You'll also notice that I'm using a parts tray behind me here in the video. I like to take all the pieces and parts that come off of a reel and drive them right into that parts tray so I don't lose them. Sometimes I have 2 buckets. In this case, I'm just going to use the secondary bucket for these 3 exterior screws here. And if I take any screws out of the part in the middle there, I will certainly do that as well. I'm also noticing there's a screw over here that may or may not come into play. We'll see once we try to move the bridge off. So we can take the bridge off without doing that. It's a good thing we did. This needs to be cleaned. That screw that's the one that I was questioning has to do with the anti-reverse dog. And again, when you take that out, you want to set that so that that is off so that it doesn't interfere with your reassembly of the reel. We're going to take some cleaner. In this case, I'm just going to use CRC Power Lube, which is a penetrating oil, just to loosen up some of that grease. Our first step then would be a paper towel. Let's see how much of that we can get off simply by using that. And there's some pretty good dried grease on this one. So we'll hit it again. And I'm just going to use a flat-bladed screwdriver that's not aggressive at all and just kind of push up some of that dried grease. I guess you could use steel wool, but I'm seeing that this is sitting here with a rise on it, so you'll be steel wooling yourself for a long time if you choose that method. Sometimes just a gentle use of a screwdriver blade is better or more efficient. Not sure anything's. And we'll just get that little puddle out here as well. Okay, so we're pretty cleaned up on this side. We have a little bushing back here that holds that spool, so we'll put a little bit of grease into that. That's the terminus of the one end of the spool. Also put a little bit into the slide here. This is your anti-reverse dog. You can see as you trip the lever it comes out to intersect with the click ratchet or this anti-reverse ratchet that's on the main gear drive. I'm just going to grab one more piece here. So a lot of these reels were very similar in design, similar but different, and especially with the way that this looks. It's very much looks the same as the Rocket. I'm going to use my Real oil to put a little bit of oil onto that anti-reverse so that moves smoothly. So with the assembly out and moving that to side, let's get at the star drag assembly then and make sure that this is okay. We're going to start. There's a cap washer up top. We're going to take that off, as well as the click ratchet. Make sure that you understand which way that click ratchet goes. In this case, it's pointed kind of like the 90 degree is to your left. Just do a little bit of cleaning here on that. We want to get into the drag washers then. Should be able to pull this off. Well, pull the drag washers out. I'm going to use a utility knife for that. I just like to slide it underneath here. I think these are hard washers, which hopefully they are, because These are hard to find if you need to find a direct replacement. So you can hope that they're the solid ones. They are, thank goodness. Just have to walk that up the post here. Being careful not to break it. Next up then, you should have an eared washer, which we do. We should have the next one of the hard washers then. And then the bottom of the main gear here serves as the this pressure point for the washers to compress. We're going to grab a cotton swab, clean the dirt off of that. This gear is in pretty good condition otherwise. A little bit of congealed grease on the outside of it, but otherwise seems to be in pretty good condition. Alright, so we're just clean there. We want to make sure, the whole purpose of this was to make sure these washers are good. These are hard fabric washers. You don't need to do anything with them other than reinstall, so let's go ahead and reinstall them. It's a hard washer. It's the eared washer. That goes next. And it's the hard washer again. Then the click washer, which is going to handle the anti-reverse. Remember what we said about the orientation on the points? That goes next, and that's actually a D-shaped kind of a hole. There's one flat side on here, so we're going to go use that flat side. Line that up, put that in, put the cap washer back on, and that essentially is the drag surface there. If you needed to replace the drags, you might have to wind up making them. I haven't seen drags available for this, so just a word of caution as you're taking these out. Just noticing that there's a little bit of debris back here. I'm going to just clear that out of the channel as well. There seems to have been some dried up grease over time. It showed on the back when we had taken this apart, so we're just going to make sure that that's right. So that's your assembly, and that's easy enough to put right back in. What we have to do then is reinstall the gear stack onto the side plate. Just line up the holes. We're going to turn that around now, and I put the 3 screws separate here so that I could get them easily. And we can actually lay this down as we do this. Those of you that watch my videos know I have some trouble with small pieces and parts. I'm going to pull my glove off here because I have a lot of grease on that from the working those drag stacks. And, I'm done with the cleaning exercise, so my hands should be okay there. And I need a little bit more agility than I have for these 3 small screws. All right, you just want to make sure that as you're tightening this down, that the other 2 remain in the inset of the shaft here and the side plates, so that you don't set this off unevenly. This would be a good time if you're looking for a cup of coffee. It always takes me a couple of tries to get these small screws in. But eventually we do. And 1 to go. So these were very popular reels before the advent of the double-sided side plate reels with the bearing adjusters. These, I used to call them hardware store reels. It seemed like that was the general purpose places where you could get these reels, and they served their purpose very well, and they still do today. Okay, remember the collar on this? We had it going inside. I take my fishing reel oil, which is a Real X oil. I'm going to put a drop on the shaft here so that it works its way in. We're going to put let's clean this up a little bit. There's a little bit of tarnish on the star drag adjuster, so let's go clean that off while we're at it. Go ahead and put that on. We want to grab the handle to tighten it down a little bit further. There's a set washer here that goes next. Then the handle. And then the handle nut. Tighten that up. I'm going to give it a turn just to make sure everything's doing what it should be doing. Now we can re-engage that anti-reverse to make sure that that's working properly. Then we can reinstall on the reel. Just trying to line the orientation up on this. That should be it. These screws are getting in the way of the piece, but there you go. Now back them out, back them in. Hand tighten. They have little ridges on it. Hand tighten it as much as you can. So a simple design built to last, and evidence of it. My guess is this is a 1940s reel, and it's 80 years later, it's still going. Okay, two more pieces to pay attention to. It's working nicely. First one is the pawl assembly. Let's see if we can pull this off without getting in trouble here. There's a little shield that holds the pawl. Sometimes I think maybe the micro screwdriver is probably another one here. Okay, we're going to try and pull this shield off to put some oil on the pawl. I hope you can see it. It's not easy trying to work this and work the camera. Alright, there's your shield. This is your pawl. I'm going to put a drop of oil in there. Now most of the time you can probably do that without pulling that shield off, but I wanted to do that to show you how that worked. This is always fun putting it back. As you know, we need small pieces of parts. Let's give it a try. There we go. And then there's only two lubrication points on the other side of the spool. We already did the inside of the spool here, so we don't need to do anything with that. That one's sure tight. There's a little cap here. I'm trying to move it by hand, but maybe that we just have to grab that with the pliers. There we go. Guess I don't have the hand strength I once did. We'll pull this little out. It's a grease cap. We've managed to unseat the worm in doing so. That's okay. When you do that, you have to reset the line guide into the groove. And then there's the little fitting here. And I oil worms. Place the cap back on. I don't like putting grease into these fittings because of the nature to trap dirt and contaminants, so I do like to oil since we've oiled everything else up. There you go, Matt. Just tightening down the drag here. There you go. We're ready to go. You're ready to go fishing again with this one and your Fluger rocket. And next up, in the near term, we will do the JA Coax reel for you. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it and subscribe. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.